Today is PowerPoint Day. Hello friends and welcome to my commentary corner. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back because I love having you in my corner. I was not expecting to put this together. This was very last minute, but I was struck by the creative bug, I guess. So here we are. I think I've done like one PowerPoint presentation with my friends, but I low-key want to do more because I just find them fun, and I love how that's become like a trend on social media. It's very wholesome to me. So anyways, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna talk to my friends online and show them my PowerPoint. Because they'll care about it. Anyways, as you've already seen with some previous crossover videos that I've done between Bob's Burgers and King of the Hill, I've made videos comparing characters between the two shows, and that's because there seem to be a lot of similarities between characters in Bob's Burgers and King of the Hill. Not the exact same, they're not a clone of each other, however, it seems like the archetype kind of matches up, and once I noticed one, then I feel like the rest of them kind of fell in line, and not everyone has a direct archetype, but I'm just going to show you guys the ones that feel most obvious to me, and if I miss any, let me know in the comments and we can get this thing going. So let's jump into it. So of course, Hank Hill and Bob Belcher. I've already done a few videos talking about them actually as fathers and all of that, and y'all, hold on, I totally realized I forgot my notes. Let me get them real quick. Look at me not being prepared. Whew. All right. I have my handy dandy notebook here. So of course, both of these men are devoted husbands, fathers. They very much put their families first in pretty much anything that they do, with the exception of Lady Propane in Hank's case, or Thanksgiving in Bob's case. Those are some specially reserved obsessions for them. However, for the most part, they are 110% in the roles that they have been given in their life. And I love that. They're both men who are passionate about their craft. Of course, I've mentioned it, Lady Propane and propane accessories with Hank. He has devoted his life to this and is proud of it. And of course, Bob is a chef and takes a whole lot of pride in that. And why shouldn't he? You know, he's really good at it. And I don't know, I just love how it shows you just how much of a creative that he is. He's a beef artist, as Mr. Fischoeder has said. I wish I had a little table. Hold on, let me see if I can find something to set my laptop on. I'm actually so frazzled today. It's not even funny. I've been working on some videos for the next like 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm trying to get things done early because I'm going on vacation soon. So I'm trying to, you know, just get ahead of it and be prepared. And it's leaving me feeling, I'm not great at prioritizing things. But anyways, moving forward, both Bob and Hank are pretty introverted men, relatively reserved, emotionally a bit more stoic. But I would say that Bob is much less so than Hank is when it comes to just that stoic personality, reserved emotions. I feel like Bob definitely, he's not afraid to let a few tears fall and cry a little bit and talk about emotions, but he tends towards the reserved side, especially in comparison with, you know, maybe Linda, his wife. And then finally, both of them, their kids stress them out for different reasons, of course, but ultimately they begin stressed. Moving on to our confident first ladies, if you will. We have Miss Peggy Hill and Linda Belcher, who are so unshakably themselves. It's not even funny. They're not afraid to speak their minds, to be heard. They both tend towards the side of delusion, Peggy more so, which I've talked about in a video prior, so definitely go and check that one out if you haven't seen it. But, you know, I was talking about, you know, who may be the more delusional one between the two of them, because they both have their moments. But I think I would argue that Peggy is more delusional out of the two of them. Honestly, probably the most delusional out of anyone. She just has a special talent for believing in herself, to put it nicely. Yeah, and I would say that Linda is more so just aggressively optimistic, you know? There's just not really anything that can get her down. No circumstances that are too dire for her to believe the absolute best is yet to come. And you know what? More power to you, girl. They both love their families immensely. They're both so supportive of their children. They're both pretty competitive women. I think they both very much love being mothers and love having families, you know. Moving on to Dale and Louise. So I feel like this pairing, I wouldn't have thought of it, but I think someone else mentioned it in my comments and thought to myself, actually, yeah, I can see it. They, I think, share this mischievous, devious archetype with each other. They are troublemakers through and through. They love doing a good prank. They love instigating. They love chaos in general. They both have problems with authority. They don't like listening to people. Louise just with, any grown-up or adult or even older kid who's trying to tell her what to do. Dale with the US government. They're both just unhinged. They're kind of crazy. But it's funny because on the flip side of that coin, they both have a very soft spot for their families. Dale is weird. He is such a strange guy, and I feel like it seems like such a dichotomy of how he is normally compared to what he's like with his family. He's like kind of obsessed with his wife and believes in her so much so that he has never even considered the fact that she could have cheated on him and had a whole child with another man who has every evidence that it was him. And then of course with Joseph, him just being so, I don't know. He's also just crazy about Joseph. I think he loves being his dad, and he thinks he's a little weird alien baby, but he loves his little weird alien baby. And you know what? That's cool, I guess. And then of course Louise, I feel like she's the type of person who's like, she can make fun of her siblings and she can pick on them and all of that, but no one else is allowed to do that. Only she can. And so I feel like she's just kind of protective over her family in that way, and she's willing to do some pretty dark stuff to make sure that they're all right, Yeah, I feel like they are brilliantly unhinged. Moving on to our lovable, soft-hearted, sensitive boys, Bobby and Jean. These are also two characters who are unapologetically themselves. They are so confident in who they are, and I feel like that makes them stand out so much. And personally, I think both of them are my respective favorites in their shows. But it's funny, it didn't start out that way. Jean was not a favorite of mine. He actually annoyed me quite a bit at the beginning. I think understandably so. They made him very, very extra, and then they built on his character, and gave him more nuance throughout the story. And so I just fell in love with him. I feel like these two are pretty easy to compare. They're both in touch with their emotions, very much break the mold of just traditional masculinity and all of that, which I have talked about in a previous video. So if you want to go and watch that, you can check that one out after you finish this one. They're both creative. They love being in the spotlight. They love being on the stage and just being in front of the crowd. They're both witty and have a joke, pop culture reference right off the top of the head. And I feel like I'm just jealous of that because I've always wanted to be that kind of person. And wit is not a skill that I possess. And I definitely do think that it is a skill. But I think that they're both just very, I don't want to say performative, but also I do. I think I don't want to say it only because I feel like performative has a negative connotation nowadays. Like if you're a performative guy or girl or person, you're putting on a show for other people, but that's not really who you are. But I feel like in this case, it fits and it's appropriate because they are performative, but it actually is who they are. They love the attention. They just have a presence about them wherever they are. But I just feel like they are very easy to love. And I personally just really enjoy it when you have just a boy, very coming of age, and I just love it when he's in touch with his softer side, But when it comes down to it, these boys have been strong when they need to be strong. I don't think that they're just, completely softies. They can be protective and men when they need to be, and I really respect that. There was an episode where Bobby had to take care of some girls that were disrespecting him the whole time, didn't realize it, comes to that realization, and then still by the end of it wants to make sure that they're safe going home, and he's the man there who is taking care of them. And I was like, oh, okay, Bobby. And then of course with Jean and protecting Louise when Logan was being an absolute jerk, and he took the punishment for her, and I grew a lot of respect for him in that moment. So that's part of the nuance that I think I really enjoy about them. Moving on to our lonely hearts. I've also, of course, done a video about these two. So if you haven't seen it, you're gonna have so much content to just go back and binge and watch if you want to. I know some people have said that, maybe they're sick and all they're doing is just watching through all my stuff, and that makes me really happy to hear. So I'm glad that you watch my silly little videos. Bill and Teddy. I think his last name is Mortensen, if I'm correct. I don't know, but they never say his last name, so it don't matter. These two fill the lonely and kind of sad best friend archetype. unfortunately, I feel like there's not like a great way to say it, but like they just have very pathetic lives. That sounds so bad, but like I think that's exactly how they paint them though, and that's what they kind of want you to see. And then of course they kind of build on them throughout the show, give them a bit more nuance, some development. But ultimately, I think they're supposed to be pitied. I think they're supposed to make you feel a little sad. Gosh, especially Bill. Bill's got some serious issues. You know, of course, with both of them, their wives divorcing them, mistreating them throughout their entire marriage. I don't even know why these women married them, clearly, when they just didn't love them. Low-key kind of emotionally abusive to these men, left them just a shell of themselves. So then now they are a bit clingy, a bit desperate to belong to anything, and so that's why, you know, their best friend, I mean, I think Hank for Bill is probably more of a best friend. Teddy and Bob are friends. Bob, I don't think would consider Teddy a best friend, but Teddy, of course, considers Bob a best friend. And so they just cling to them. They also not only cling to them as like a best friend, but they also seem to want their life. And not only their life, but their wives. And that's creepy. So that's something that I don't love because, yeah, if Bob or Hank were out of the picture for too long, I would not be surprised if either of these men made a move on Peggy or Linda. Honestly, they already kind of have. And like Hank and Bob have not been out of the picture very long. Like, shoot, Teddy was hitting on Linda when they were together and they were at like the turkey trot festival or whatever. And they were together for like approximately 5 minutes before he was like, we're gonna have to repopulate the earth, I guess. And I was like, where the heck did that come from? I'm gonna need you to slow your roll. That's weird. And then of course, Bill has done many questionable things when it comes to Peggy. So there's that. But it's interesting too, because even though like a lot of sad stuff happens to them, I also think that they do have some agency in this and that they tend to self-sabotage. And it seems like, I don't know, maybe part of them is comfortable living in that pain and in that suffering. It seems like for Bill, anytime he gets like a chance at maybe moving forward and moving past that hurt, he tends to sabotage it for himself. Like when he found a really great woman, you know, the governor, who was into him and they had started dating and all of that, but then as soon as his ex-wife came into the picture, he was all over her and wanted her back. And it was just so clear that she was trying to take advantage of him and just ruined his chances with the governor. And that just could have really been the exact thing that he needed to just get out of that hole that I feel like he's kind of dug for himself. And then Teddy, I feel like Teddy doesn't self-sabotage in the same way. I don't know, he's just kind of a weird guy, and like, so he can be a bit socially awkward and stuff like that, so I think that can hurt his chances a bit. But then of course he does have Kathleen, and that's still going well and going strong, it seems, so I really hope that they can continue and be endgame. That would be really cool. But yes, these two characters are very similar and low-key just feel like a copy of each other. And then moving on into our final pairing, that's gonna be the bad dads. And this is actually gonna be a video that I'll probably do in the next month or so. I'm also probably gonna do a video on Louise and Dale, just spotlighting them and going into a bit more detail about them. But I call them the bad dads for a reason. They are awful father figures. One of them having redemptive qualities, the other not so much. So of course, Cotton Hill, Big Bob have exposed just a little bit of trauma to their sons and pretty much altered them for forever. I don't know why I said it like that. Both of them, I think, had their reasons. However, of course, that's not an excuse, but they have definitely emotionally damaged their sons. You know, both have more of just the traditional masculinity. I think Cotton much more so, which isn't a bad thing, you know, but just a thing. But in their mistreatment of their sons, they have created a lifelong tension between them. And I think for Cotton, he's of course the one who I don't think really has any redeeming qualities, because I think he straight up hated his son. Went so far to name his next son Good Hank, because his first Hank was the bad Hank, and on his deathbed quite literally called his son worthless. I don't know if there was ever really a moment that he cherished him, that he loved him. He definitely didn't say it if he did, but I think that was just weakness to him, and that, you know, may have been how he was taught when he was a kid and the treatment that he received, and so that's what he then passed on, and unfortunately then it can become a cycle. But that is one thing that I am so proud of both Bob and Hank doing, is not continuing that cycle with their own children. Thank the good Lord they have broken that cycle and not become their fathers. But with Big Bob, you know, I feel like he was more so emotionally distant from his son, and also seemed to express some of his frustration from losing his wife onto his son. And that came out in just criticism and things like that, and it broke Bob down quite a bit, to the point where he just didn't want to be around his father at all, let alone, you know, work with him in all of that. And so thank goodness there has been some change on that end of things, and they're growing. And I think Big Bob has realized some of his mistakes, but not all of them. And yeah, I've already talked about it with the Christmas episode between them, you know, him kind of just storming out of there, even though like he was very much in the wrong. And just, I didn't love that moment, because it felt like Big Bob really didn't learn his role in all of it. But whatever, there's still growth trending towards a healthier father-son dynamic. That's what I have, pretty much. Of course, if you have any other characters that you can see similarities between, let me know in the comments. I didn't really think of one for Tina, so if you can find someone who kind of matches her energy and her style, definitely let me know. And if there are any topics that you would like to hear me talk about, of course, put that down in the comments as well. Hit that like button if you like this video. If you like this style, you know, I know the lighting is kind of, but whatever. We're here, we're having a good time. I'm having a good time, at least. If you want to see more of this kind of thing, let me know. You know, maybe give me some ideas. I love just being creative. It makes me happy. Hit that subscribe button so that you can get the alerts from my videos, and so that you can see this face a whole lot more. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye!